Why is South Africa still battling with the transformation of rugby 21 years into democracy? Has there been any progress on the late President Nelson Mandela's attempts to transform rugby? Is the Springbok coach, Heineke Meyer, the right man to transform the rugby team? Is it realistically possible for rugby to achieve 50% black representation by 2019? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is COSATU. The lack of black players in South African rugby teams has become a contentious issue. A case in point was the weekend's game between the Springboks and Argentina. Only 2 black players were in the starting lineup of the team that lost to the Argentinians. Several players have subsequently approached the federation movement COSATU about lack of transformation in rugby. But is the Department of Sports and Recreation failing to transform rugby? A reminder that this is a live program and therefore you can call us and air your views. The number to dial 089 110 4210. Outside the borders 002789 110 4210. Our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. My guest today, Dumile Mateza, is a sports analyst. Sbu Mchigeliso is also a sports journalist. Gentlemen, welcome to Question Time. Mr. Mateza, let me start with you. Is Heineke Meyer the man?
Well, I never thought Heineke Meyer should be the coach of South Africa, and because of his makeup, of his demeanor, Heineke Meyer has always believed in the Blue Bulls rugby of old, that you play with the forwards, which is an old Biermans van Zyl style of rugby, and Heineke Meyer has never uttered the word transformation.
Are you asking the same question, whether he's the right man for the job? Well, he's been appointed already on the back of what he did at the Bulls. So naturally, he's going to try to continue that. We saw when he brought in Ricardo Lobsha, when he brought in the back staff that he had at the Bulls, which was very, very successful and built the foundation that they had there. The problem is that the last coaching job he had was at Leicester Tigers, and he didn't really move on with the game. That was in 2008. He came back as the director of rugby at the Bulls. However, he wasn't hands-on coaching. And rugby did move on, and the new laws that were introduced between then, and remember Heinrich Brissot, how he was so effective, and then in 2010 he wasn't, just because of the change of rules alone. But anyway, that's the brief background on Heineke Meyer as the coach. As far as him being the right man for Springbok rugby and transformation targets we want, and the World Cup goals, he has not proven himself adept to achieving either of the two, because A, the Springboks have not won anything in the last 4 years that he's been in charge, and B, transformation-wise, it's gone backwards.
But, Dumile, why should, whenever we talk rugby, the question of transformation comes up? That discussion never happens at Bafana Bafana.
Well, yes, it doesn't happen in Bafana Bafana, but it does happen from some quarters that I walk into where people ask me this question, why are we not transforming Bafana Bafana? But anyway, in Bafana Bafana, we don't have these debates. In rugby, I think you spoke about 21 years. Rugby has 23 years because unity was achieved in 1992 in Kimberley. And all of these things were promised at that meeting where white rugby wanted to go and play international rugby. And they promised all of these things. They've gone back on them. They haven't done them.
Why?
Well, that's a big question that I think we should be asking. Probably Mr. Mchigeliso will help me answer those questions, because you find that in 2006 in Paul, Dr. Besson released a document, a very thick document that was dealing with the transformation charter of rugby. It was very radical. And when I read it, I said, there is no way rugby will implement this document. And it was a very radical document that said it should actually not only be about players, it should also be, they should transfer some of the franchises should be in the hands of black people, because those are businesses. And I don't understand why, when we talk about black economic empowerment, why we do not say we want a black rugby franchise to be owned by blacks or partly owned by blacks. That has not happened.
You've got the Blue Bulls in Pretoria, the Lions in Johannesburg, and Soweto Rugby Union in Soweto.
Well, the recent breakaway of Soweto Rugby Union, it is a bit radical, but it's a boiling point of the frustration that black people feel who want to be part of the sport in real terms. I mean, you look at the South African Rugby Union, sure, it's headed by a black president, sure, it's got a black vice president, and a lot of people in influential positions in South African rugby are black. However, the South African Rugby Union isn't on the side of people who want to transform the game. They're on the side of keeping the Springboks a winning team, a marketable team, and keeping the game flowing in the country.
But does it mean including a few Matezas and Sedus in the Springbok, therefore, do we devalue the team?
It does not mean that, actually. I think it's quite the opposite, because you would have seen with the Stormers in Super Rugby, Alistair Coetzee in one of his final games played 10 black players in his match 23. And he said, guys, this is the team I have. Look at them. And nobody really congratulated them. He had to come out and say, guys, you've been looking at the score. You haven't been looking at the team sheet. Here it is, 10 black players. I think the bulk of them started. And they made it through to the eliminating stage. And no other team in South Africa made it to the playoffs. And that shows you that, listen, it's really not about whether a black person can play rugby or a white person. It's really about putting faith in a good player that can play. And if we're bringing it to the topic that brought us here in the first place, Henneke Meyer not picking certain black players in his Springbok squad. Henneke Meyer is not picking those players, but they merit a selection in that team. So therefore, it's not a general transformation issue. It's why aren't you picking players that merit selection in that team? Why is Lionel Mapu not given a chance at 13 when he was the best number 13 this year? Why a player that was playing fullback, a white player, the whole season, who's only played outside center at junior and Springbok, junior Springbok level and SA schools level, playing at 13 when you had a 13, a guy who's a specialist there, and he was playing the best rugby of his career? Why is Elton Jantjies not given a look in when he has also gone back to the form that he's in? So it's those kind of little things. They're little things, but like I said, it's a boiling point of frustration that is being felt in the dressing room. These guys merit the selection. They're not just want to be played because they're black.
Just want to differ with Mr. here, because those are not little things. Those are huge things. And when Jean de Villiers come back into the team, you move a center to wing, and yet you have a player like Lwazi Mvovo who can handle the high balls at that position, because the Sharks played him at fullback in a couple of matches. And then you decide you're going to keep him on the bench. That, to me, is just spitting in our faces after we had sacrificed so much in the unification of rugby in this country.
You've got Lwazi Mvovo, Brian Habana, Trevor Nyakane, and Tendam Tawarira. These are the only 4 black players who were named in the team today.
Well, Tawarira is not there. He's on the bench. I think what they brought in Nyakane in the place of Tawarira.
Okay. But is it enough?
Well, I think if you have the people, those are the players that are in the squad. Surely those players are not in the squad to carry the bags. They are in the squad so that they can demonstrate that they have the talent. Earlier you spoke about whether is it really necessary for black people to play rugby. There are rugby clubs in the Eastern Cape that are 100 years old, probably older than some of the white clubs. And I'm surprised why people think that we only started playing rugby in 1994. That is not the case.
Whoa. I still want to know, how do you have a team of 23 players and only 4 black in South Africa?
Well, that's an issue you have to take up with Henneke Meyer. I mean, this is a guy that instinctively, he has an innate distrust of black players, especially in key positions. And it's almost ironic that the tipping point came when you removed a winger, the one position where black people kind of felt really welcome in the team. It's like you can remove all the other wings ours. It was like as soon as he removed the wing, then COSATU was like, no way, we're putting our foot down. This guy is he's messing us up or something like that. That was the irony of it. But it shows you there's an unconscious bias in rugby that black players, first of all, can't play thinking positions, and those include fly half, scrum half, and full back, and various positions of decision making within the rugby field. Also, I have to say that within the development of rugby in the country, there's no beefing up of black players in those key positions. There aren't top-class locks that are black.
Okay. The other thing, Paul, that concerns me very much.
Let's firstly take a break. When we return, we'll talk about those things. But I also want you to talk about the deal, the agreement that was reached as far as transformation in rugby.
In 1992.
In 1992. A reminder that you can call us and air your views, 089-110-4210. Need those calls from the Boland and all those teams that have been playing down there in the Eastern Cape, black players. What's your view? This is question time.
The city of Durban and its surroundings is one that is filled with history and cultural diversity.
Durban is a natural paradise known for its gorgeous coastline of sun-kissed beaches and subtropical climate.
Flea markets are essential to visit if you want to experience Durban's Afro-Oriental atmosphere.
The city of Durban is an elegant, mature and ambitious city. The vendors at the Vic offer a range of African and Oriental products, an eclectic mix that is hard to resist.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays at 5:30 p.m. CAT.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time, and we're talking transformation in rugby. Before we continue with our discussion, let's have a look at this clip.
The point that COSATU wants to make is that we need a South African team that represents our nation as a whole. And we have the black form players. The best team in South Africa in the Super 15 was the most mixed team, which was the Stormers team. The best form players for many positions were black players. So we need to make sure that we bring the good and black players together in a Springbok team that the whole of South Africa can get behind. And Saru doesn't seem committed to doing that. And that's why we're getting involved, and we're demanding that we need a team that reflects our entire country.
My guests, Dumile Mateza and Sbu Mchegeliso, who are both journalists, sports journalists, rugby journalists to be specific. Ryan, you're calling us from Cape Town. Welcome. Ryan?
Hello there. How are you, sir?
We're well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Firstly, thank you. Firstly, they must change the name of the team from Springboks to Seagulls.
To
you know
what?
why? Because it's all white with two black wings. They're all white with two black wings. Seagulls. Okay. Secondly, it's all about white supremacy again. In this country, black people are still treated like inferiors. And thirdly, I'm very concerned that the same man with his arrogance, the coach, his contract has been extended. Now, what they did to the previous coach, Peter de Villiers, was disgraceful. His record is similar to Heineke Meyer's, but he was chucked away like an old piece of rag. And because he was black, he didn't even get a chance to coach at a Currie Cup level. He had to coach the UWC team. So this is what the white people think of our black people. And as long as they do that, they're going to get disastrous results on the rugby field.
Okay.
Now also, can we be worse than last? So why don't they use those guys that we have? Because they can do no worse than last. Thanks very much. Bye.
All right. Thanks very much, Ryan. Well, the Seagulls, according to Ryan, that's an agreement in place.
Yes.
1992.
1992 at the Kimberley Hotel, where it was decided when Unity was formed that SA Rugby will see to it that first there's development, then there's transformation. The issue of quotas came later to fast-track transformation. Then people talk, let's have quotas. But that never worked. One of the other things, Paul, what is happening, we understand that transformation or development is to take place at schools, and our schools have no rugby at all, and all rugby is played by our schools. But then you find the situation where you have the F&B matches that are played during the weekend, you have the other matches, that schools rugby matches that are being played over the weekend and during the Easter weekends, and then you have the Varsity Cup. All of those rugby tournaments are held for white, sort of to create a critical mass of white rugby players so that blacks do not get a look in. That's what is being done. And of all people, the person who's pushing that is Francois Pienaar.
Okay, hold the thought there. Archie, you're in welcome. Archie? Okay, we seem to be having a problem with Archie, but we also have tweets here. I would love to just go through those as soon as we have them available on our screen. But okay, there we have. Some Samkelo, race quotas are required to remedy disproportionate representation of specific races, yet merit must come first. That's Samkelo. Wandile Kuzwayo says, transformation is a process, not an event. Government needs to build facilities in rural and township schools. Annie, if you can do the job, the color does not matter. But it would appear here that the color matters.
Oh, it matters. And Henneke Meyer would have been naive if he took this job not thinking he should be cognizant of how the Springboks look when they get out onto the field. He would have been very, very naive.
Now, what happens to these agreements that are there?
Well, it looks like those agreements have been thrown out of the window. Those agreements have been thrown out of the window. One of the biggest problems we sit with in Paul is the only people who should be getting all these big pays in rugby, this big money in rugby, should be white players. Because what they do, they take a player who's playing in a league that is far low compared to Super Rugby in Japan, and they want that guy to come and play for the Springboks. But a guy who's been playing week in and week out in Super Rugby doesn't get a look in.
Strelo, you are in Richards Bay. Strelo? We seem to have lost Strelo there in Richards Bay. Another topic, really, which I think is also important, the selectors. Who is selecting the team?
Henneke Meyer, Ian McIntosh, and Peter Jooste make up the Springbok selectors.
So you don't have any Jamzashe there or Magodulela? Yeah.
Or Koboka. You don't.
And how does that impact on the outcome of the team?
What happens is the selectors select a squad, a huge squad, and the person who decides on the 15 that takes the field and the other 6 or 8 that sit on the bench is Henneke Meyer. At the end of the day, Henneke Meyer has the final say.
So does it mean, therefore, that the problem lies with Mr. Meyer?
The problem does not lie solely with Mr. Meyer. Look, he has made some very, very suspect decisions in his starting lineup, in picking his team. Mayer's just been very, very cold and not cognizant at all to the racial sensitivities of this country. It's as if he's been living in Europe and suddenly came here and is unaware of the political status quo of the country. I mean, the fact that it takes for him to give a black player a debut, right? And this is in direct response to a story that the Beeld did today where they said Henneke Meyer, what about these 17 that Henneke Meyer has picked? In response, they were responding to COSATU saying Henneke Meyer has made racial choices. But of the 17 that Meyer has picked in his tenure, a third of those have never made their debuts. Most of those have gotten just minutes. Lionel Mapu got 2 minutes. And listen to this. Mapu was in Brisbane. I was in Brisbane covering the Springboks. They're playing the Wallabies, a game which they lost, mind you. Lionel Mapu, it was his birthday that week, right? He's fit. There was nothing wrong with him. And he doesn't get picked. He traveled with the team. Fine. Henneke Meyer felt that the combination between Jesse Kriel and Damian D'Orlando was working. He didn't want to upset it. The following week, they're playing the All Blacks at Ellis Park. This is Lionel Mapua's home ground. This is where he played and almost took the Lions to their first ever playoffs. They had their best ever season. They had 9 wins, which they've never ever had. Lionel Mapua was the fulcrum of that team. What does he get? 2 minutes in a game that the Springboks have already lost. He doesn't even get to touch the ball. And then he never makes it again. I'm wondering, what did he do in the 2 minutes where he didn't touch the ball and he doesn't even warrant a place on the bench against Argentina in a match of very, very meaningless proportions? So it's those kind of selections that make you wonder whether Henneke Meyer really wants to give black players a chance in his team.
Mr. Matez, what will it take for another Mpho to have a fair chance to be selected?
And Paul, I must say, I don't know. I had a look at, before I came here, I had looked at the Craven Week team. That Craven Week this year was full of black players who were playing very good rugby. Border, Eastern Province, and a whole host of others were playing very good rugby. How many are in the school, in the SA school side? How many? Probably 3. Marfu from the Eastern Cape, because he was a prominent player in that Eastern Cape team, together with Kerwin Bosch, and the rest are not there. Where are they? That's where the problem starts, because the people who select the team, even at Craven Week level, do not give blacks a look in.
Itumeleng, you're in Pretoria. Itumeleng?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, Mpo.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Mpo, when you are expected to deliver, whether it's employment equity at the office, whether it's BE with your company or transformation, when there are results that they expect from you, it's very hard for those people to look at issue of color. You use the material that you know will bring you the results that are required. It's very easy for people, for journalists mostly journalists, it's about popular opinion. It's not about facts. It's about popular opinion, pointing out what the wrongs and the right. But when you are there expected to deliver, it's very hard for you to go and look at whether I have 5 guys black or 3 guys white.
But Itumeleng, are you saying...
Roll report.
Itumeleng, are you saying that black people cannot play rugby?
The school, it's only blacks.
But
they want colors there. So now who's black there and who's not black?
Okay.
So the issue of black, white, Indian, colored, it will make this country spin until we are dizzy. Thank you very much.
All right. I would have wanted to know about that.
I made a statement earlier. I'm actually surprised and shocked by that statement by Itumeleng. I made a statement earlier. I think you should go back and ask the people who struggled through the years of fighting racism in sport. Ask them what needs to happen. Not people who arrive here who do not know what did we go through.
But where are you?
Statements that were made by former president of SA Rugby, Danny Craven, that blacks will never wear the Springbok jersey, they'll wear it over my dead body. And I said to somebody, he's dead now, why can't we wear this jersey?
What should we expect out of this team? And now I'm talking support-wise. A lot of people are saying this is not our team. We cannot support them, or we shouldn't be expected to support a white team. This is what COSATU is saying as well.
Well, my feeling is that, look, you can support any team. You have freedom of expression. If you feel like you want to support a winning team, then you probably want to support the All Blacks. As far as the Springboks are concerned, the support that they need, just the fact that there is political trouble within the team does not warrant it to lack support. However, it doesn't mean you can't speak out. Just because you support the team doesn't mean you can't speak out when you're disgruntled, when you see there's unfairness and injustice. Yes, they should warrant the support of the country, because there's no other rugby team South Africa has. This is it. And you have to panel beat it until it looks like how we'd like it.
What can the minister do to fix this?
I think the minister, in a sense, should start at school level. They should sign the agreement with the Department of Education, and they should start rugby earnestly at school and probably give that job over to the provinces, Department of Sport in the provinces, to begin to do that. We can start with Sevens rugby, which I thought is the best way to start rugby at schools. And it's only when you have, as I showed earlier, with the white players who are playing in the Craven Week, in the Easter weekend matches, and in the Varsity Cup, it's only when you have a critical mass of rugby playing blacks that you'll see a lot of blacks making it into these teams. If we don't have that critical mass, we must forget it.
Okay. And perhaps finally, should Henneke Meyer stay?
Well, I don't know. I don't think this team will win the World Cup. I don't think this team will get to the semi-finals. I don't think this team, look, for the first time in so many years, they are now at the bottom of the log of the championship rugby. At least Peter de Villiers won the Springbok, won the match against the All Blacks at Eden Park, which no Springbok has ever done.
Okay, gentlemen, this is a very interesting topic. I never thought rugby was this interesting. We'll have to revisit it some other time. That was all we had time for today. And a big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. From me and the crew, have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.
This week we are taking you around the continent, telling you stories about what makes Africa, Africa.
We now head to the Kenyan coast where we meet a man using needles to fight a growing drug culture.
A recent study revealed that there are 850 drug addicts in Diani alone, with over 220 using injectable drugs such as heroin.
In my community, I've seen a lot of these people suffer.
The Journal, every Saturday at 1:30 on SABC News.
An investigation is now underway to establish whether the men were involved in other crimes. One of the men has also been linked to another shooting 2 weeks ago.